For over 35 years, there's been this one piece of software that's been the secret architect behind pretty much every piece of clothing you've ever owned. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really get into why Adobe Illustrator is still the undisputed king of fashion design, even with all the talk about 3D and AI. Okay, so think about it. Every single great garment starts as an idea, right? Maybe it's a quick, messy sketch on a napkin. It's got all this energy, but it's not precise. But to actually make that thing, you need a perfect, technically flawless blueprint. And that right there is the fundamental challenge in fashion. How do you turn that raw creative spark into something a factory can produce perfectly thousands and thousands of times over? So here's the big question. How do you actually bridge that gap? How do you translate a designer's very human, artistic touch into pure mathematical perfection? Well, the answer really lies within one single tool. All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with exactly why Illustrator totally dominates the scene. Then we'll get into the magic of its core technology, the vector stuff. After that, we'll see how it fits into the real-world workflow, check out the competition, and finally, look at how AI is actually making it smarter, not obsolete. So let's jump right in. In an industry that completely reinvents itself every few months, how has one tool managed to stay on top for literally decades? Let's break down how Illustrator became the absolute, non-negotiable standard for the entire industry. But Illustrator's dominance isn't just because it was the first one to the party. Nope. The secret sauce is the fundamental technology it's built on. And this is where the real power is. And that secret sauce, it's called vector graphics. So unlike a photo from your phone, which is made of tiny pixels that get all blurry when you zoom in, a vector image is built on pure math. That means every single line, every curve, every point is a perfect, clean calculation. And this is exactly why it's such a game changer for fashion. A design made with vectors will stay perfectly crisp, razor sharp, whether you print it super tiny on a hang tag or blow it up to the size of a giant billboard. That infinite scalability, it's everything. But it's not just about the vector tech. Illustrator is the global standard. A designer in New York can shoot a file over to a factory in Vietnam and it just works perfectly every single time. Everyone's speaking the same digital language. You combine that with how perfectly it fits in with Photoshop and InDesign, plus the constant updates, and yeah, you've got an unbeatable combo. Okay, so we get why it's so powerful, but how does that power actually show up in the day-to-day life of a fashion designer? Let's take a look. Illustrator is a true workhorse. I mean, it's used for the most critical stuff, those technical drawings we call fashion flats. But then it's also used for the fun stuff, like exploring color options, designing prints and patterns, and then for all the business side, like spec sheets for factories, entire collection boards, and even branding, like the logo and hang tags. It is literally everywhere in the process. But hey, let's be real for a second. It's not perfect. The precision and versatility are absolutely unmatched, for sure. But there's a really steep learning curve, and that monthly subscription can be pricey. It's a serious professional tool, and that can feel pretty overwhelming when you're just starting out. Still, for anything and everything in 2D design, that investment of time and money pays off big time. This brings us to a super important question, especially today. Is Illustrator really the only option? And what's the deal with the rise of 3D design? So yeah, there are definitely alternatives out there. Affinity Designer is a really strong contender, especially with its one-time payment, and Inkscape is totally free. But the professional fashion world runs on what we call a network effect. Because everyone, from the freelancers to the huge brands to the factories themselves, is using Illustrator, it just becomes the only practical choice. Trying to use something else just creates friction nobody has time for. So what about 3D? Well, tools like CLO 3D aren't replacing Illustrator. They're becoming its partner. Think of it this way. You use 3D for virtual prototypes to see how fabric is actually going to drape and fit on a body. But you still use Illustrator for the core technical drawings, the spec sheets, and for rapidly iterating on design ideas. They are two different tools for two different but equally essential jobs. So the modern workflow really looks like this. You start in 2D, creating that perfectly precise technical flat in Illustrator. Then you might take it into a 3D program to simulate the fit and see it come to life. But when it's time for actual production, you go right back to those original 2D Illustrator files. That is the source of truth for the factory. And finally, let's look ahead. If you're thinking that artificial intelligence is going to make Illustrator obsolete, well, think again. In fact, it's turning Illustrator into an unbelievably powerful co-pilot for designers. This quote just captures the new dynamic perfectly. AI isn't here to replace a designer's vision or their creativity. Not at all. It's here to handle the boring, tedious, repetitive tasks, which frees up designers to do what they actually do best: create. And look, this isn't some sci-fi future stuff. These tools are available right now. With generative recolor, you can literally type autumn forest tones and instantly get dozens of beautiful colorways. You can create a complex, seamless vector pattern just by describing it. This is work that used to take hours, and now it's done in seconds. It's incredible. And the future? It's even more exciting. I mean, imagine an AI that can turn your rough sketch into a perfectly clean, production-ready fashion flat, or one that automatically suggests cohesive color palettes for your entire collection. The tool is just going to keep getting smarter and more helpful. So let's bring it all home. What are the key takeaways? Number 1, Illustrator is and for the foreseeable future will be the undisputed industry standard. 2, its vector precision is the absolute foundation of manufacturing. It's unbeatable. 3, it works hand in hand with 3D software. They're partners. And 4, AI is supercharging its capabilities, not replacing it. Learning this tool is an investment that's going to keep paying off for years to come. Ultimately, Illustrator is so much more than just software. It's the language that turns a creative vision into a physical reality. And while the tools might seem complex at first, just remember that every great design in the world started the exact same way, with a single stroke on a blank page. The only real question is, what will yours become?